We talked already about this idea of multi-tiered systems of support, PBIS, equity, access, drilling down into individual student behavior and escalating behavior within a particular student in our student body. But what about this issue of data residency and responsibility? How do schools, or how does your school, take a holistic approach to student health and well-being when our stakeholders and their relative input may reside in lots of different places? In the example I gave, there may have been a teacher, an IT technician, a counselor, a principal, all involved with touching, looking at, and responding to that concern. So how do we do that in our schools and prevent ourselves from incidentally creating a fragmented system? As recommended by the US Department of Ed, there's a need to move away from what they call co-located programs. And by this, they mean the ad hoc programs where we have mental health professionals and counselors and individuals that become involved at tier 2 or at tier 3, or sit outside of our regular intervention and programming and teaching and coaching and training, and only are brought in on a case-by-case basis. Going back again to my experience at a trauma-informed school, every teacher on that campus became a trauma-informed educator, not just those whose individual students needed to be sent to a counselor. So the idea of bringing this all together, moving away from co-located programs and intentionally integrating our systems, education, health, mental health, so that these frameworks can incrementally become better and we can continue to analyze the data and ensure that we see improvement. The way that we approach this challenge in well-being is to focus on this idea of how well-being teachers can not only provide that specific student chronology, but how we can zoom out and create meaningful, reportable trends for the school site or for a cross-section of students within the school. So let's take a look at how that's achieved. I mentioned already that we have here this reportable chronology on Hanan as an individual student. We can drill down into that report if we want to take a look at something specific in his behavior, or we can, take a look at the summative, ring around Hanan and kind of get an idea of where things are at and where he's struggling. We can also zoom out and take a look at the whole student population and look at what's happening there. Here are all the students that have been brought into the system, as well as relevant demographic information that you may want to filter by, whether that's the school year they're in, gender, whether they're seen as a student at risk, their EL status, etc. Dropping down into frequency, we'll get a holistic view of the frequency of concerns across our student population and which students have the highest quantity of concerns brought forward. And you can filter this by specific dates, specific months, specific years, in order to take a look. And we see Hanan is kind of our biggest offender. He's had the most concerns raised against his profile, and he may be a student that we want to raise to a higher level of concern. We can also drill down into the concern types across the school. We can take a look at the total concerns across all students, and again, drill down by demographic data or export this for sharing with other relevant parties. And then we can also look at timeline. There's a lot of data that supports that students who are students at risk or who are struggling with at home, we're going to see an increase in their defiance or off-topic behavior leading into winter break or summer break. So we can start to look for those trends within our student population. We can also look for it by category. What types of concerns are being brought up the most? Where do my teachers need additional training? Where do my teachers need additional support with the types of concerns we're seeing from our current student population? And we can look at them by year group. Which grade levels are struggling the most? Which grade levels are bringing up the most concerns? And we can see here it's 6th grade. We can use this data to inform the conversations we're having about the universal interventions we're putting into place for our 6th graders, the programming that we have in place as well. Here we see that it's the majority of child protection concerns So let's drill down into what that means. What are the child protection concerns that are being presented? So we're going to filter our category report by just year 6, and then we can drill down into and get a report of all of those child protection concerns specifically. We have a chart that lets us know the subcategory within that concern. And we can kind of tell at a glance here as well that it's substance abuse. Substance abuse is coming up again and again for our 6th graders. That's the category that we are most often alerting to offline or online behavior. So we have the opportunity to use this data to say, we need to be providing intervention to our students in 6th grade, or training to our teachers in 6th grade, or have more school-wide programming at the end of 5th grade in order to answer these questions, address this curiosity, or provide students with the positive strength and confidence to avoid situations where drugs or alcohol may be present. So the chart here kind of gives us that nice overview of the subcategories of these concerns. So the idea here is that, we're not only looking at individual students within this data tracking system, but we're also able, as I said, to kind of zoom out and provide those meaningful trend reports. So the challenge of fragmented delivery with Wellbeing, we create this single data source of evidence for evidence-based intervention for all teams, to support decision-making and to ensure that the students are safe.